Or we have something that's a little bit tighter? I usually direct the first shot, and after that I'm out of it. Oh, that's a little, okay, whatever. Oh, that's the automatic zoom thing, isn't it? All right. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Kol Nidre Service. I want to welcome those of you that are sitting in our pews, and I want to welcome those of you that are watching us. That during Rosh Hashanah, I believe we hit between 400 and 500 people on Rosh Hashanah day, both present and those sitting in their homes. And I know for Kol Nidre, we're probably going to have even more people. So it feels a bit lonely, I know, if you're sitting alone or sitting with just a few people. I know it even feels a bit lonely in our sanctuary because we're used to it being packed. But you have to remember that our community is connected because of this service, because we are praying together, because we believe in Jewish community and in Kol Tikva. So feel connected. I know it's tough right now, but try your best, and you will gain so much from it. So let me ask you, why do you come tonight? Why do you sit in this sanctuary, in these pews, in the front and in the back? Why do you watch on your TV sets or on your computers or your iPads? Are you looking for something? Searching for something? In need of something? Do you expect that Cantor, Noah, or the choir or I can actually do something for you? I'm going to give you a hint right now. We have no magical powers. We can't erase sin. We cannot erase memory. We cannot erase errors you made yesterday or ones that you might make tomorrow. But we can do. We can give you time to stop, to listen, to reflect, and to change. To stop. Stop for Yom Kippur. To listen to the words and melodies of this holiday. To reflect on your past year and to change for the better. We can provide time for change, words for change, melodies for change, but ultimately, each one of you must do the changing. As we read in Leviticus, the 10th day of the 7th month is a day of atonement, a sacred occasion for each one of you. You shall practice self-denial, and you shall bring an offering by fire to Adonai. You shall do no work throughout the day, for this is a day of atonement, to cleanse you from all your sins, so that you shall be clean before God. Do no work whatsoever. It is a Sabbath of complete rest for you. On the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you shall observe your Sabbath. So today we observe the Sabbath of Sabbaths. We observe Yom Kippur. May it be a gateway to change. And now I'd like to ask Laura and Glenn Rabney to come forward and their children to please, Alex and Sam, to light our candles. As they come forward, why don't we read the Yom Kippur sonnet together on page 8. Can a person atone for pure bewilderment, for hyperbole, for being wrong, and 1,000 categorical opinions, for never opening her mouth except too soon, for ignoring all week long the waning moon, retreating from its haunt above the local canyons, signaling her season to repent, then deflecting her repentance with a song? Because the rest is just too difficult to face. What we are, I mean, in all its meagerness, the way we stint on any modicum of kindness, what we allow ourselves, what we don't learn, how each lapsed, unchanging, year resigns us. Return us, O Lord, to you, and we will return. I'm going to ask you all to light the candles. And now for the Shechianu, that prayer we say whenever we come back to an event we want to be repeated. The Shechianu. Cantor.
You bring us here. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. You keep us here. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Who is sitting next to you tonight? Your wife, your child, your sibling, your parent, your friend? Well, tradition teaches us that God sits next to all of us during the chanting of Kol Nidre. God is another congregant listening to words written by human beings. God is part of this legal proceeding, and like us, God asks us, or asked, to be forgiven. And like us, God already knows the world is not a perfect place, and like us, God promises to do better next year. We all need to do better. But in this midrash, we are taught that also God needs to do the same. There's an improvement that we can all do. Now, the emotion of Kol Nidre does not come from the words. They aren't actually poetic. They're actually a dry legalistic formula. But the emotion derives from the fact that we are absolving ourselves of the unfulfilled promises made between God and us. We are giving ourselves a clean slate to begin anew. And God is doing the same. So each Kol Nidre, we, this community, and a God that sits among us, whether we are here or at home, God is next to us. Well, we stand before a rabbinic court represented by 3 Torahs. And tonight we're going to have 3 congregants each hold a single Torah during the 3 repetitions. Because that holy court, like every Jewish Beit Din, consists of 3. But when we ask for forgiveness of this holy court, we already know the answer is one of acceptance and forgiveness. With Kol Nidre, we enter our Day of Atonement. I'm going to ask everyone to rise. As we turn to page 16 for Or Zarua, the ark is going to be opened, and I'm going to ask our first holder, Tina, to come step forward. If at any point you need to sit, please sit. I forgot to announce that during Rosh Hashanah. Standing is optional. It's if you're able to stand. Stand between the candles. We turn to page 18 for Kol Nidre. It will be recited 3 times. Cantor.
Kol Nidre ve'esarei v'charamei ve'konamei ve'chinuhiei ve'kinusei u'shavu Udeish tavana udeacharimna vedi asarna sarna al nafshatana miyom kippurim ze ad yom kippurim haba איחרתנה והון כל הון יהון שרן יהון שרן שביתין בתהילין מבוטלין לא שרירין ולא קיימין נדרנה שבועתנה לשבועות
Kol Nidre, all vows, resolves, and commitments vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and oaths of dedication that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves from this day of atonement until next day of atonement. May it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are not valid and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows. Our resolves shall not be resolves. And our oaths, they shall not be oaths.
Kol Nidre Vacharame Vekoname Vechinohe Vekinose
We remain standing for just a few more moments. We continue with the Baruch Hu, found on page 22. I bow, I face the ground, I fall before the Most High. Farther than heaven's heaven are you, nearer to me than the flesh on my bones. What have I to offer you but my spirit? How shall I lift my eyes to you? How can my tongue give praise? The signs of your love are countless, as are my sins, more numerous than the sands of the sea. So guide me toward the right path, my teacher, my keeper of faith, source of all that I know. When my heart speaks, I hear the words myself, and you, may you hear me too. We face the Ark of the Baruch Hu, page 22. Our ark will be closed. Everyone can be seated. Please join me on page 24. Let us read the English at the bottom of the page together. The bottom of 24. I need to hear everybody out there. We're a small crowd tonight, so I need to hear everybody. I'm taking names tonight. The trouble is you all have masks on, so I can't really tell who's reading and who's not. So if you just do this a little bit, I'm going to think you're reading. But please, it's not a good night to lie and fake reading, okay? Bottom of 24. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk. As your wisdom opens the gates of night, your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. I'm now going to have everyone please rise again for the Shema. And the Shema, well, it is said that on this day of Yom Kippur, we should remember to be like Moses. Moses was heavy of tongue. He had a speech impediment. And he had to struggle over every sound he made. And on this day, we need to really think about our words. They shouldn't come out easily. We should struggle with them because we're asking for forgiveness. We need to make every phrase, every word well thought out. And if we think of every word as a struggle, then every word becomes special as we form it. So let's remember the specialness of each word. Let's think about Moses and how he became a leader because he chose his words carefully, because they would not come easily. And so that's true for the Shema. As we say each word, let us think about the weight of each word, the importance of each word, how each word holds a world within it and can hold our hearts forever and ever if we so choose. Let us cover our eyes for the Shema. You may be seated. We now turn to page 30 for the V'ahavta. Georgia. Over there.
V'ahavta Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha, uv'chol nafshecha, uv'chol me'odecha. V'chayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom alevavecha. V'shinanta levanecha, v'dibartam bam. Bevshitecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leo aliyadecha v'chayu liftaftafo b'neinecha uftaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Leman tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yetem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hozeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Yasher koach. We now turn to page 40 for the Chamocha. The Chamocha is that song we sang after 400 plus years of slavery. We left Egypt, and the Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, and it means in a narrow place. And the idea is we had to escape a narrow place to find freedom. And every Yom Kippur, we once again find ourselves in Mitzrayim, in a narrow place. And we're looking for a way to escape it. We want to get out of Egypt. But all that we have done wrong over the past year, all the words we shouldn't have said, the actions we shouldn't have taken, they keep us in Mitzrayim. And we are slaves to them. And we need to find ways to ask for forgiveness and to move forward. So as we sing the Chamocha, let us realize what the Israelites have just left and what we are currently in the midst of. Chamocha, page 40.
ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו חולם משה ומרים זה לי ענו ואמרו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל התועתכם לפני אדוני תטהרו. For on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of Adonai. We turn to page 46 for Hatfilah, also called the Amidah, the standing prayer. Let us rise, let us read the English together at the top of 46 before Adonai Sifatai Tiftach. Together, have mercy upon me, O God, as befits your faithfulness. In keeping with your abundant compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly of my iniquity, and purify me of my sin. For I recognize my transgressions, and am ever conscious of my sin. The Amidah. Top of 48.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imo אבותינו. הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה.
Remember us for life, sovereign God who treasures life. Inscribe us in the book of life for your sake, God of life.
לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע.
So
שלמים ורחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל.
אתה kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'toshim b'chol yom yelucha selah. You are holy, your name is holy. Seekers of holiness praise you day by day. Selah. We continue silently through page 81. When you're done with your silent prayer, you may be seated. Please note that any pages that are in blue or gray are creative interpretations. The pages that are just in white are the more traditional text. Please, silently through page 81. When you're done, you may be seated. Let's do time. I shouldn't listen to me.
בספר חיים ברכה ושלום. ברכה ושלום ונסעת. ברכה ושלום
It's always right before the Kol Nidre sermon that I really want to drink a big glass of water, and then I realize it's Kol Nidre. So I'll just pretend for a moment. Sports that I never follow. Sports that no one ever follows. Sports that for 13 days during the heat of summer become our focus and our obsession. We learn the minutiae of high diving and dressage. That's the way you pronounce it, I asked someone. And gymnastics and so many other sports that are typically the focus of so few. What am I talking about? I'm sure you know. I'm talking about the... Thank you very much. Every 4 years we can't avoid the news or the medal counts no matter how much we try. And even during a 1 year delayed, still in a world pandemic moment, we were touched by the attempts to make history, by the majesty of athleticism, by the failures that come so close to perfection. But most importantly, we were touched by the truths that are revealed not only about the athletes, but also about us. Now, before I became a rabbi, I was a sports fan. I have to admit, rabbinic school and the rabbinate, with its weekend commitments, slowly drew me away from the world of being a minor sports fan into being a non-sports fan, except for fantasy football. Now, if you want to spend time with some major sports fans, where's my mother-in-law? She's right over there. And my brother-in-law. If the Dodgers were a religion, they would be high priest, I promise. But what unites us all, serious and non-serious fans, are the Olympics. Jim McKay, a ABC sports newscaster, coined the phrase, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Well, it doesn't hold completely true for the Olympics. Yes, there's a thrill and a joy that comes from victory, but for many of the athletes, just getting there means something. And it can be thrilling even in defeat. So I have to say, I'm sorry, Jim McKay. And while there is some pain when it comes to losing, there's also a sense of camaraderie that you share with both your teammates and your competitors as you see their successes and their attempts at success. And I think this was only highlighted this year when athletes only had each other and the news media to cheer them on. I was truly amazed at the way sportscasters were openly rooting for their favorite athletes and their home teams. Without the stadiums filled with spectators, every athlete and professional also had to be a fan. And the Olympics became a family event where we got to know those who participated in a way unlike any other in the past. Yes, there is something special about the Olympics that draws in those of us that don't normally find the time to follow sports. But this year, I think it was so different. Perhaps because the lessons we learned from these athletes and competitions were sharpened due to the pandemic. So let me share with you some lessons. American Isaiah Jewett was running the final curb in the men's 800 meters. And he was positioned to finish in the top two of his heat, which would have progressed him. Then the unspeakable happened. Botswana's Nigel Amos tripped him from behind, and they fell into a heap on the track with the runners who were still on their feet, attempting to avoid them. And thankfully, no one else went down. And for a moment, these two athletes, they lay on the ground back to back. Then slowly they turned and faced one another, still on their knees. Would words be exchanged? Would blows be thrown? Would anger fill their worlds? No. They reached out to one another and helped the other rise as if rising as one. And then Jewett placed his arm over Amos's shoulder, and together they turned toward the finish line in order to complete the race. And as one, they crossed that finish line. I have no idea who won that heat or who won any of the medals in the men's 800 meter. But that image, those two men, those two runners assisting each other, casting no blame and rising as one, that I will remember. Casting no blame, rising as one. Two lessons they taught me that day or reminded me of. So a moment, let's focus with casting no blame. When someone trips us up, what is our reaction? Is anger and frustration the best way to deal with a bad situation? We know it's not, but so often our emotions take control, and instead of figuring out how to finish the race together, we just stop and point fingers. So often others are not purposely trying to undermine us. It just happens. It happens all the time. So often life consists of people tripping us up and us tripping up others. Let's remember we're human beings, which means we're far from perfect. And I'm sure that everyone here has tripped someone up, either unknowingly or by mistake. And when you have, how have they treated you? If with respect and a chance to move forward, yash or koach to them. But if not, what was accomplished afterwards? My guess is very little. Let's remember that forgiveness should be our first reaction, especially during this high holiday season. Forgive, rise as one, finish the race together. But you always have the option of retaining resentment and staying where you are. It's your choice. Now let's take a moment and look at that value of rising as one. We do it all the time. I say, please rise, and what do you all do? If you're able, you rise as one. We have done it so many times, we've forgotten its meaning. But by rising as one, we're showing our commitment to one another, to our community, and to our religion. It demonstrates unity of thought and ideology. We need to remember why we rise as one. It's not just because it's written in my outline, tell them to rise as one. It's because we're supposed to rise as one. It's our tradition. It shows respect, but it's also a symbol of community. And as we struggle through this frustrating pandemic, symbols of community and camaraderie are needed more than ever. Our politics might vary, but our basic humanity remains the same. Let's focus on what unites us and less on what divides. Let's find ways to rise as one. Let's admit it. Few of us are high jump fans. If I asked you to name one of the world's top high jumpers, could you? Could anyone raise your hand if you can name a top high jumper? We got one person who can. That's really impressive. Two. All right. But I'm not asking for answers. I just wanted to see how many people knew that. Now, if I asked you to name them, very few of you could. And I don't think their names are on the covers of cereal boxes, though I wouldn't know because I don't eat cereal. But in general, these are the athletes who don't receive the biggest endorsements. But when you watch a high jump competition, it can be spellbinding. So here are two names which I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce. Mutaz Essa Barshim and Gianmarco Tamberi. The former from Qatar and the latter from Italy. And both these men are big personalities. And both have backstories that show that overcoming adversity is part of their lives. Tamberi brought along an ankle cast which read, Road to Tokyo 2020-2021 with the 2020 crossed out. If the Olympics had occurred on schedule, he would not have been able to compete because he had an injury which led to the wearing of that cast. But he took that cast and put it next to his starting point every time he would do a jump at the Olympics. And his competitor Barshim, he won bronze in the last two Olympics. This was probably going to be his last Olympics. And he always came up short, literally short, of winning a silver or gold. And these two men were the only ones to clear 2.37 meters. When the bar was raised to 2.39, both failed in their attempts. A judge or umpire or referee, I'm actually not sure what it's called in high jump. I'll go with official. The official called them over. And Tamberi wrapped his arm around his competitor, and they acted like teammates while the official explained the jump-off process. And from my perspective of the moment, as I rewatched it on YouTube, Barshim interrupted and said, "Can't we just share the gold?" And before the word yes was barely out of the official's mouth, the two high jumpers shook hands, agreeing to share. They then began to run around the stadium, not just one winner, but two. We often don't think of ties as winning, but in this case it clearly was. Perhaps we need to consider this more frequently when we compete on the playing field, in school, at work, and in life. You don't need to lose for me to win and vice versa. We don't have to view life as a zero-sum game where the winner is the one who gets the most. We need to share. And sharing can be winning. Because I think it was Barney the purple dinosaur who taught us that sharing is fun, though my attribution might be off. But whoever said sharing is fun, with a big smile on their face, is right. Yet we often forget that fact. In the Olympics, sharing can be fun. In real life, sharing can be tough. We need to look at our family and our friends and those with whom we work and try to lift the ship for all. The more we do our best, the more they'll do likewise. It was obvious that Barshim and Tamberi pushed each other as competitors to achieve. They then paid tribute. They showed respect to the other by sharing. What can you share with someone else? When is the time to say, the competition is over, let's enjoy what we've accomplished together? And when I think of sharing in our Torah, I think of our departure from Egyptian slavery. You see, we didn't leave alone, we took the Erev Rav with us. And the Torah commentators, well, they aren't sure what the Erev Rav exactly wore, but there's one interpretation that states they were the non-Israelite slaves. They were our equals in Egypt. And we said, come with us. Let us share freedom together. Let us share freedom together. And they did. The twisties. Here's a condition that I never heard of until gymnast Simone Biles came down with it during the Olympics. It occurred during the first of her 4 team events. She appeared disoriented during the vault and ended up stumbling in her dismount while somehow still remaining on her feet. And after consulting with professionals, trainers, and coaches, she decided to withdraw from competition. But she didn't slink off into some corner, hiding from her team and the media. Instead, she went to her teammates and informed them of her decision. And they understood her condition and the need for her to care for herself. And alternates stepped forward for the remainder of the competitions. And all the while, Biles stood on the sidelines or sat in the stands, cheering on her friends and teammates. She demonstrated what leadership really means. Now, some critics have questioned her commitment and her drive. They referred to other performances by other athletes when they played or performed with injuries, often causing lifelong damage to their own bodies. Win at all cost has historically been the mentality for professional athletes. But Biles and other athletes have taught us that winning at all cost should not be the only goal. Caring for your body and your mind should take precedence. Expectations should not be the end-all of how we live our lives. Sometimes we need to realize that we have the twisties, and that we need to take care of ourselves. So what are the twisties? It's when a gymnast's mind and body are not in sync. The mind isn't sure where the body is in relationship to up and down. And after withdrawing from the team competition, Biles posted practice videos of herself landing on her back. This was an image that shocked us because she's a GOAT, greatest of all time, as a gymnast. In interviews, she shared she has had this condition before, and it typically passes in a week or two. And as we know, she ended up competing in the balance beam, winning a bronze. Not her greatest achievement, but a fitting end to a 2-week period where she was slowly moving forward and connecting her mind and body and knowing up from down. So I have to ask, how many of you have had the twisties over the past year, or even right now? Is your mind disconnected from your body? Are you flying through the air unsure of when, where, and how you'll land? Do you know up from down? And I have to say, if you haven't had a case of the twisties, I'm shocked. I think I get them regularly, and I'm not being facetious, especially over the last 18 months. Days upon days at home, losing our normal patterns of life, regaining some of our patterns only to have to backtrack. My mind is barely comprehending yesterday, let alone today. And I'm guessing many of you feel the same way. Biles and other athletes like her remind us that our mental health is as important as our physical health, and that often they are connected. When our mental health issues flare, we need to say, I have to protect myself so that soon I can do the things I enjoy doing with the people I care about. By not hiding from her team and her fans, by being in the forefront of cheering them on, she made a clear statement. I am not embarrassed. My health, mental and physical, or both, is my priority. Biles teaches us a lesson by example. She teaches us to speak openly about our mental health challenges and not to be embarrassed by them. And over the past years at Kol Tikva, we have run educational series on both mental and physical health issues. We're doing another series this year, and on Yom Kippur afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, on Zoom and other social media formats, we're going to have a speaker from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we've learned so much from NAMI speakers in the past. Attend. Bring your questions with you. Giborim. That's the Hebrew word for heroes. Who are the Giborim, the heroes who guide your life? What are their stories? We too often forget that there's a story that leads to every great moment in sports and in life. But if we only focus on box scores, we miss the lessons. The Olympics, by giving us a chance to cheer on sports that typically have little interest to us, create a world where the story and the lessons are as special as the moments of athleticism that fill our souls with awe. But not every hero comes from sports. Our lives are filled with heroes, and our heroes vary depending on our life experiences and interests. So who is your hero? What was the lesson they taught you? Will you hold on to it or forget it in a few days or a few weeks or a few years? And if the lesson is easily forgettable, perhaps you need to find a different Gibor, a different hero. If you're finding yourself lacking heroes, then remember our Torah and our tradition is filled with them. All you need to do is take the time to study, just like we take the time to follow the Olympics. So here are the lessons I learned from Olympic Giborim. From America's Isaiah Jewett and Botswana's Nigel Amos, I learned the importance of rising as one and casting no blame. From Qatar's Mutaz Essa Barshim and Italy's Gianmarco Tamberi and Barney the Purple Dinosaur, I learned about sharing. And from Simone Biles, I learned about caring for our bodies and our minds. May we take these lessons and the lessons we learn from all our heroes and live them out in our daily lives. Gamar Chatima Tova, may your fast be an easy one. We now have some praying to do. I'd like everyone to turn to page 82. We now start the first of the Yom Kippur confessionals. Vidui literally means confessional, and we're taught in Judaism to do a confessional every day. If you pray daily, you would be doing that. On Yom Kippur, we have two different confessionals we do throughout this 24-hour period. One is the Ashamnu, and the other is the Al-Chet. And both of these speak in the plural. They remind us that whether we have committed this specific sin or not, someone in our community has. And that we need to join with them so they're not embarrassed by confessing their sin. And also to let them know that we are with them and we stand with them. And that we are just as human as they are, because next year we could be guilty of the sin that they are guilty of this year. So we do it so all of our voices rise together so no one is embarrassed. We do it knowing that every year there's a potential for us to stumble and to take these actions. So I'm going to ask everyone to rise. And we're going to first do it in English, and then the cantor and choir are going to be singing it in Hebrew. So we're going to read together. We're going to take our right hand, make a fist, place it over our heart. I'm on the bottom of page 82. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. The cantor will now sing. We will repeat after her each line.
אשמנו, בגדנו, גזלנו, דיברנו דופי, הבינו והרשנו, זדנו, חמסנו, טפלנו שקר, איי 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 איי, יצנו רע, כיזבנו, לצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, זררנו, קישינו עורף, איי 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 איי, רשענו, שיחתנו, תיעבנו, טעינו, תיקנו, איי 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 איי.
Please remain standing. We turn to page 86 for Al-Chet, the long confessional. I'm going to say the first line of each of these verses, and then we're going to read the English together. So I'll do the first line in Hebrew, then the English. And we'll be doing pages 86 and 87 right now. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the wounds of our mouths. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have harmed you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al-Chet she'atanu lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. V'al kulam Elohai slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu, For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Continue on page 88. Please remain standing if you are able. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, together, the ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al Cheisha Tanu Lefanecha, the ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. V'al kulam Elohai slichot, slach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. You may be seated. We turn to page 98 for Shema Koleinu. Hear our call, Adonai, our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and good will.
Shema Koleinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chuz v'rachem aleinu, וקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. השיבנו אדוני אליך, השיבנו אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו, ימינו כקדם. תשליכנו אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו. אל תעזבנו. שמע קולנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, עלינו, וקבל ברחמים, ברחמים ורצון את תפילתנו.
It is my honor to call forward our temple president, Laura Rabney. And this is what I've learned about Laura. No job is too big or too little for her, as long as the job has the potential to build a better, stronger community. She is creative, thoughtful, and caring, which makes her a true asset to everyone here. It's an honor to work with her as a president and also as a friend. I'd like to ask Laura Rabney to please come to the podium. You have to give me a minute to play tech, though.
It's okay. Mask off, glasses on. A rabbi and AB. Can't get better than that.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
A long time ago in a place far, far away. Okay, it was Milwaukee. And exactly how long ago, I'm not telling. But that's where I was born and where my story begins. Well, kind of. Because outside of being taught that all things begin and end with the Green Bay Packers, go Pack Go, not much happened there. And when I was 4, we moved to Rhode Island. where even less happened. When I was 11, we moved to Cincinnati, and that's where our story really begins. Since my 2 younger siblings and I now needed to begin our religious training, my parents decided it was time to join a temple. And with Cincinnati being the home of Reformed Judaism, you'd think joining a Reformed temple was a given. You'd be wrong. Since my great-great-grandfather was the first rabbi in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, they naturally felt that joining Adopt Israel, the first conservative synagogue in Cincinnati and one of the oldest in the entire country, would be more appropriate. So, with no Hebrew school experience at all, I was sent off to prepare for my bas mitzvah. And yes, I said bas, not bat. Being at a conservative temple, which in my mind was really leaning towards Orthodox, I was only allowed a Friday night service and could not read from the Torah. I'll never forget my first meeting with the cantor. Picture Pavarotti. Seriously, picture Pavarotti. The look, the demeanor, and even the voice, I was scared out of my mind. On the bright side, since I was limited to just Friday night, I only had to learn a few prayers and my Haftorah portion. And a year later, there were tears of joy from my parents and relief from me. We then bid farewell to the Queen City and headed to Boston, and thankfully a Reformed synagogue, Temple Beth Am in Framingham. There I signed up for confirmation class, not to learn about Judaism, but starting at a new high school, I thought it would be a good way to meet friends, and I was right, and I'm still friends with some of them today. Between spending time at the temple, my younger siblings' bar and bat mitzvahs, and our family became close with our rabbi, and I started getting a better understanding of what a Jewish community was. Having made my exodus from Boston, newly married and living in LA, I felt it was important for us to go to temple. Well, at least once a year during the high holidays, like all good Jews. Of course, purchasing tickets was expensive, and as for sneaking in, well, then you're just putting yourself in the position of having to ask for forgiveness for sneaking in, which is totally super wrong. So fortunately, I had an aunt in Chicago who worked for a large synagogue and told us about the wonderful world of reciprocal tickets. So each year we would experience different temples, which is when we realized that temples in LA are a little different from the ones back east. The services themselves are fine, but participating in responsive readings led by the likes of Red Buttons and Shecky Green was a little off-putting, though definitely interesting. When our daughters, Samantha and Alex, grew closer to starting their religious studies, it was time to find a Jewish community in the valley that we could call our own. Where's that water when you need it? We'd go to various temples for their high holiday family services, where we were able to get a sense of the different styles of each congregation. After sitting through services that featured marching bands, farm animals, a significant lack of English, and rabbis who were, shall we say, less than enthralling, we did what most of you did. We asked our friends, "Where do you go? Did you like it? How's the rabbi? How's the cantor? Who else belongs?" Eventually, very good friends of ours told us about Kol Tikva, and we joined them for a service. For me, it was the immediate warm and friendly acceptance by members who were meeting for the very first time. For Glenn, it was the abundance of English and the wood paneling on the bima. It seems the temple he grew up with also featured a lot of wood, so we were sold. Besides, it wasn't like we were signing up forever. I mean, a couple of bat mitzvahs, a confirmation or two, and we'd be done. It's not like we were going to become board members or a temple president. But just as we were preparing for our second bat mitzvah, John Hannes shows up as the new rabbi. Our age, smart, funny, affable, with a family much like our own. He became not just our rabbi, but more importantly, John and Lisa became our newest friends. We'd shared not just religious holidays, but dinners together, and over time, and the promise of bourbon, he convinced Glenn to become a member of the board. And as my mother-in-law would say, "Glenn is on the temple board? Kol Tikva must be really a special place for him to do that." As I discovered too late, however, getting Glenn involved was just part of the rabbi's plan. And over the course of many dinners and more bourbon, Glenn was asked to relinquish his spot on the board in order for me to join. It seems like there's some rule about spouses serving at the same time, and before I could question it, Glenn had submitted his resignation in duplicate. And now, 4.5 years later, I'm standing in front of you as temple president. How did this happen? All I can come up with is our growing love for Kol Tikva, its people, and its clergy. I'm sure you all have your own stories about how Kol Tikva became your home, but I'm confident we've all stayed because we feel the same comfort, love, and compassion that we both give and receive from Kol Tikva. For us, the depth of our connection was epitomized shortly before the pandemic started, when Rabbi John joined us at the hospital as my mother-in-law was leaving us. As he opened his prayer book to recite the final vidui, the final confessional, a photograph fell out. It was of Rabbi John, Lisa, Glenn, and myself from a gala from years before. We looked at each other in amazement, and Rabbi John had no idea how it made its way into his prayer book. It was such a powerful moment and showed our connection during fun times and sad times. Since the last High Holy Days, 40 families of our community have experienced family members or even themselves hospitalized and were comforted when our caring committee reached out with a phone call, a card, and food. Even sadder, 20 members or members of their extended family have passed away and were consoled by Rabbi John, who performed either a funeral, memorial, or Shiva service, some in person, some on Zoom. And sometimes congregants found themselves just needing a little comfort or support, and our staff and clergy were there to help. The last 18 months have been rough on all of us, but especially on our temple, as there were times we truthfully did not know if we would survive. When the pandemic began, our senior staff and clergy worked without pay, and luckily the PPP program answered our prayers, just when we needed it the most. But it wasn't the government that just helped. More importantly, it was all of you, generously. We're all part of a special community, and having sat on many calls where presidents of all local temples gather in order to share what's going on in their respective synagogues, I feel so grateful to be a part of ours. Last year, while we were all at home, virtually praying together over YouTube, our appeal raised $81,000, the most we've ever raised. Because of all of you, we made it through last year and have come out even stronger than we were in 2019. But the pandemic and the impact it's having on our community is unfortunately not over, and we need your help once again. While our needs are critical, all is not dark, I promise, and our future is bright. We've welcomed 14 new families. We're reopening our ECC. Our religious school is thriving. Our programming has something for everyone. With funds we've received from 2 different community grants, we'll also soon be hiring a social worker. But to make all this happen, to ensure our clergy will be there to help you celebrate a bar bat mitzvah, a baby naming, a conversion, a wedding, or more importantly, to bring comfort when you or your family member is in the hospital, going through a hard time, or God forbid, preparing a funeral. We need everyone. So here it is, you knew it was coming, the big ask, and let's actually go big. Last year, like I said, we raised $81,000, so let's round it up this year. Let's make our goal $100,000. And to make that goal even more possible, again this year we have a matching fund with 2 ways for everyone to participate. First, with a minimum gift of $1,000, you can help grow the matching fund. Or with a minimum gift of $360, the fund will match your contribution. So, if you're in the sanctuary, I brought mine up, take out your envelope, and please give at least $360 so your gift will at least be matched. And if you're watching at home, I'm looking at all of you, it's even easier. Just go to our website, and right there on the home page, It says High Holy Day Appeal with a big red apple that says donate here. So click it and gift away. Finally, a big thank you to our High Holy Day match donors who have already contributed. We can't thank you enough, and you can see their names in the voice. Also, a big thank you to Rabbi John and Cantor Noah for these unforgettable High Holy Day services, to our amazing choir and our musicians who sounded so beautifully, our amazing staff who take care of us and this beautiful synagogue throughout the year, and to my family, Glenn, Sam, and Alex, who are always there for me. Lastly, all of you who are my extended family, I just want to thank you, and I'm so happy to be part of this special community. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Laura. Those are beautiful words. Hopefully that won't fall. We now turn to page 107. The only trouble with using technology during a service is it likes to turn itself off. And that takes me 5 minutes to get everything started again, so I apologize for that. We are on page 107 for the 13 attributes of God. I'm going to ask our ark openers to go to the ark and open up our ark, and I will let you know when you can close it. I'm going to ask everyone to rise. We are on the bottom of page 107. I'm going to recite the 13 attributes of God, and then Cantor Noah will chant them. Or on second thought, why don't you read them with me? They're on the bottom of page 107. These are attributes that we project upon what we perceive God as being, but they also should be the attributes that we have. We should emulate God in this respect. So let's read the bottom, page 107. Adonai, Adonai, God, compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה. אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה.
Please remain standing. We're at the top of page 112. Let us read together the top of 112. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us, and give us courage. The answers are both in you and with you. Our ark is closed. Everyone may be seated. A few announcements before we do the mourner's Kaddish and a final benediction and a closing song. This might be longer than both Laura's comments and my sermon combined. I apologize for that. Let's see, I can skip all of that. Let's see. You don't need to know what happened at 7:30 tonight because you were here. Tomorrow we have a variety of services, speakers, and programs available throughout the day, both online and in person. At 9:15 a.m. we have our youth education program led by our educators, Samantha and Hallie, and it will be online only. But if you're at home praying, it's a great way to put your kids in another room. They'll get a service that is right for them. They'll get education that is right for them as you participate in the adult service. At 9:30, that's when we start our adult, quote-unquote, service, all mediums once again. 1:30 is our tot and family service. It will be online only, but it's a lot of fun. Cantor put together a great little high school band, and I'll be telling a story or two, and we'll be hearing from our ECC director, who will also be telling a story or sharing some fun thoughts. 3 p.m., online only. Beth Boyd will join us from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. If you have not heard anyone from NAMI speak before, please join us online. If you're here for some reason, we're going to try to set up a TV where we can observe this from. I'll be in my office, though. I'm helping run it from there. 4 o'clock, we have an Israel speaker, Dr. Stephen Windmuller, who is one of the top scholars in this country. He teaches at Hebrew Union College. His thoughts are always fascinating, and they neither are right-wing or left-wing. They're just his interpretation of what's going on. So I'm sure he can anger everyone. That's perfect. At 5 o'clock, we begin our afternoon service, followed by our meditation service, followed by our Yizkor service, followed by Ne'ilah. This will all take place between 5 and 7, give or take 10 or 15 minutes. We do have space left to come in the sanctuary for that service. Let's see. On Sukkot and Simchat Torah, a week from this Friday, we're having a combined Sukkot and Simchat Torah celebration this year. We normally don't combine them. Simchat Torah has become problematic to do because of all the dancing and sharing and heavy breathing. So we're going to combine them into one program where we can actually try to keep everyone healthy and safe. So a week from Friday, there's a 4:30 Yizkor service and a 5:30 holiday and Shabbat service, and then a community dinner. If you take a look at our Torahs, Where's Tina DeGan? Tina, wave to us. Tina is our religious practices chair. She has been working really diligently to get new Eitz Chaim, the wooden scrolls, and also to make our Torahs kosher. Are 2 of the Torahs redone now? 2 are done. We're working on a 3rd. One is a Holocaust Torah that's 250 years old. That is not being redone because of its age. It is going to stay as a symbol. But repairing it just doesn't really happen with a Torah that old. So please, if you want to look at our Torahs, feel free. And if you want to ask Tina about this great project, because a number of families, including the DeGans, the Mulines, and the Watermans, helped fund this. We will be collecting food for the West Valley Food Pantry. Bring things like peanut butter, tuna, breakfast cereals, canned soups, fruits and veggies. You can do this when you bring your books back on Sunday. So if you took out books this Sunday from 11 a.m. to 12:30, bring them and fill your car with canned goods. It's really simple. You can go to any grocery store, 99-cent store. Go, before you bring your books back, take 10, 20, 30, 50 bucks and get as many cans as you can. We have to thank everyone who's been volunteering. The tech team back there has been figuring things out between each service. I cannot thank them enough. And I know that they keep being forgotten. They're sort of like the odd man out. So thank everyone who is doing the tech work. I just so appreciative. Thank the choir, thank the cantor, thank everyone here who's been a volunteer. If you look in your voice booklet, you'll see a list of everyone who has been helping. If you need more information, because I'm sure I haven't given you enough after this 15 minutes, visit our website. Shana Tova Umetuka, may you have a sweet new year. Thank God announcements are now over. Okay. I just want to point out, I used to have congregants do that. It would take twice as long, so I am trying to get it shorter. All right, we're on page 122 for the Mourner's Kaddish. And we take a moment to remember those who passed. In theory, no one is in a Shiva right now because Yom Kippur ends Shiva. And if you're in Shloshim, you get additional credit, so it might have also ended your Shloshim. But this does not end the way you feel. Your emotions are still the same. So if you're currently in a state of mourning, or if you're observing a yortzeit, I'm going to ask you to rise right now. And now I'm going to ask the community to join you because they will now show their support and their love. And I'd like to point out in the middle of page 122, you'll see some gray words, Le'elah, Le'elah. Le'elah, which means to rise up, is repeated twice between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And so it's not a mistake when I say it twice. It's actually something we should all do. So if you just notice that grayed area. And this book also includes Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, the second to last line. And I've been doing that for about a year now, maybe longer. It comes from Reconstructionist theology. And it pretty much says we're not just offering peace to Jews, we're offering it to the world, to everyone. And I think it's important for us to remember inclusivity, especially during these times when we've all become very fragmented in our beliefs and in our actions. Page 122, the person you're thinking about in your heart, we say the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yikadash shmei Rabba, Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yimechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. B'agala v'yizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarak le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha b'rechu. Le'elah u'le'elah. Mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the one who makes peace on high grant peace to all who mourn, to all Israel, and Yoshvei Tevel, to all humanity. And together we say, Amen. A closing benediction. You can put your books to the side. If you're with someone you know, put your arm around them. If not, ask, and do not be insulted by a no. This night, as our fast begins, as the new year begins, we come together as a community, yet each of us is strangely solitary. Each of us comes here with special hopes and dreams. Each of us bears our own worries and concerns. Each of us has a story no one else can tell. Each one of us brings praise no one else can offer. Each of us feels joy no one else can share. Each of us has regrets that others cannot know. And so, at this sacred time, we pray. If we are weary, may we find strength. If we are discouraged, may we find hope. If we have forgotten how to share, may we teach each other and learn together. If we have been careless with one another, may we seek forgiveness. If our hearts have been chilled by indifference, may we be warmed by renewed purpose and by the promise of the Spirit of this holy night. And together we say, Amen. Our closing song. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:30. May your fast be an easy one.